welcome to Knit Locally. Today in this video we're going to talk about doing the heel turn with our Rose City Roller knit along, and we're going to be doing only one video because it's the same technique for the flexi flips, the double points, and magic loop. Right now you're only working on one needle back and forth, and so the technique will actually be the same, and I will demonstrate it on the flexi flips, but you should only just need this one video. There'll be a separate video for our 9-inch circulars. Okay, so today let's talk about the heel turn. So hopefully at this point you have the cuff that looks something like mine, and then you have a heel flap that looks hopefully something like mine, and today we're going to work the heel turn, which is going to turn this into a little bit of a triangle, and then we'll do the gusset and pick up stitches. But this is actually going to be done with short rows, and the technique to do this, because we're working back and forth on one needle, is the exact same for both the double points, magic loop, and flexi flip. So I'm only going to show you on the flexi flips today, and it's called short rows because we're working sort of short rows, right? We're working between 2 points, not back and forth so much. So let me show you how they're done, and let's explain the pattern a little bit. So I am doing 64 stitches. So my first row, 1, says to knit 19, and if I count, they have done 19. Okay, so now I need to slip, slip, knit, and turn 1. So what I'm going to do is slip as if to knit, slip as if to knit, put these back on my left-hand needle, and knit through the back loop. There's a couple different ways to do slip, slip, knit. It doesn't matter as long as you're consistent, however you're comfortable. And then it says to knit 1. Okay, then I'm going to turn. Now on the wrong side, I'm going to just slip this first stitch, and then I'm going to purl 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, then I'm going to purl 2 together. So instead of just purling 1, I'm going to purl 2 together, purl 1, and then turn again. This time I'm actually going to knit 8. So, or actually, you have to slip the first one. I'm so sorry, I forget that. So you slip the first one and then you knit 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, which should be like 1 stitch before your last stitch before. We're going to, and you should see this gap, right? So it should be that stitch before that gap. You're going to slip, slip, knit through the back loop, knit 1, and turn. Okay, now we're going to slip this stitch so that it's at my right hand needle to work. I'm going to purl 9, okay, and then see how I'm 1 stitch before that gap again? See how that's sort of a natural gap? I'm going to purl 2 together. That's sort of how you know if you've gone enough stitches. And then I'm going to purl 1 and continue. Okay, so now I'm going to turn my work again, and I'm going to slip the stitch. So this is where some questions have come up, is like how long do you do this? And you can see this is sort of starting to form that little heel, right? And what you want to do is you're going to purl, or you're going to slip your stitch, and you're going to knit again. See how you can see that little heel starting to form. So I'm going to knit across until I'm 1 stitch before that gap again. Okay, and see how I'm coming up to this gap up here? See how you can kind of clearly see that gap? So I'm 1 stitch before, so I don't even have to really count anymore. I'm going to slip, slip, knit those through the back loop, knit 1, and turn my work. And see, this is forming my heel, like the little heel cup. Okay, I'm going to slip that first stitch and purl across. Oh, I can grab it correctly here. Okay, so we'll see back, I have my gap that's here, right? So I'm gonna purl those two together. There we go. Purl them together and then purl one and continue on. And so I'm going to continue working these until my last stitch. So I'll see you back here in a second. We are down to the last 3 stitches. This is my stitch before my gap here, and it actually already slipped them. So we are going to knit those together, and then I'm ending on a knit 1. Now, depending on which size you are making, you're going to either end up with a purl 2 or knit 2 together, or I'm sorry, end with a purl 2 together or a purl 2 together, purl 1. And so on the back side here, we're going to actually end up with a purl 2 together. And because this last stitch, you don't actually have to slip that. You can just work that stitch. It's already available to work. And we're just going to purl across here. For those of you who are not familiar with my knitting style, you'll see me continental knitting and traditional English purling on the back side. It's actually just so you guys can kind of see an example of both, but okay. I do knit both English and continental. Okay, so we see how I have 1 stitch before my gap. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to purl these 2 together and then work this last stitch purl. And now I'm in a position, right, where I can pick up my gusset stitches, right? So I'm going to pick up my stitches here, work across the top of my foot, pick up my stitches here, and then join to working around again. So we're going to do that on our next video, but you can see right here, this is the end product you want to end up with, is your little heel gusset here worked right now, or your heel turn rather. I'm sorry, not the gusset, the heel turn worked right there. That's what it should look like.